Hello everyone, this is Kimlin Bappy, aka the Blue Mermaid with Q's Blue World. I have got another episode of You've Got to Meet Zomkhonto. I'm here in Windsor, Canada, and I'm so excited to share the story of this poet with you. Zomkhonto, tell us about who you are.
Okay, Zomkhonto is actually, my first name is Mbonisi Zikhali. That's my surname. My totems, because Africa is huge on naming. Africa is huge on giving due praise to whatever journey that each person takes on in their lifetime, right? And so, totem-wise, you keep adding to the name you're given. So each generation has its names and praises according to what they've done. It's quite elaborate. But I chose Zomkhonto because it's a challenge at this moment to me, because in the consistent searching for meaning, for identity, part of it is reconnecting all of those facts and bringing them together, the same way that TJ, who you were talking to earlier, did with his own history. I'm trying to do the same, because it's much harder with the kind of history we have, because people keep saying we have an oral history. Not necessarily. If you look at the grander scheme of things, people want it to be known as oral simply because they want to have a claim of recorded history for their part, so that they can continue marginalizing us, because we are supposed to be the people that are so basic that they have just oral, they never recorded nothing. That's not true. Anyway, I digress. My name is Mbonisi Zikhali Zomkhonto, and Zikhali means arsenal of weapons, and Zomkhonto means of the spear. So Zikhali Zomkhonto is arsenal of spears. And my history has been a complicated thing, because when you come from Africa, the education is already geared towards marginalizing your own being, and we are in the process of destigmatizing being African. And it's been quite a journey, because it's part of what I call wellness storytelling, because the tradition of storytelling in Africa is how people are brought together to begin with. So generations meet through storytelling. We always knew that when we were young, we had grandfathers, grandmothers, who had that role, and instantly they were so enigmatic in their relation to us as grandchildren, that storytelling was a way of imparting what we call words of wisdom, amazwi ahlakaniphileyo, imparting a certain understanding of the world that they have seen as storytellers who are older, and imparting in us the storytelling ability as well. Because what I realize is that mostly because of westernization and how the West views literature and all of that, there's a certain miscommunication of what, because we are storytellers since the beginning of time. You know what I mean? but then Africa is always being treated like, oh, hey, you are the second to this. You see.
So you're in the process of trying to reclaim your traditions that separate from the Western traditions, because your traditions have, have existed for a long time.
It's not a reclaim. The reason why the reclaiming sort of appears to be happening is because I am in the context of where the obliteration of identity when you are a minority happens consistently. You know what I mean? So if I was back home, there will be no reclaiming, because I'll be among.
So it's the context that of course, you're in Canada, and so when you change, when you're existing in a different culture, you're sometimes challenged to consider where are your roots, or how are we similar, how are we different.
Yes. Well, the lucky thing about being in Canada is Canadians are an inquisitive people. Canucks have a certain flavor to them. So the things that we discuss, Canadians can give ear to, because by sort of some amazing nature, Canadians are accommodating. So the one thing that I treasure most about the current space that I'm in is that in my seeking of identity, I have space to say what I'm feeling.
Right, and have civil conversations with your host country.
Yes.
And the countrymen and country people and
your
host.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then discuss our frustrations, because identity is something that is consistently being fought for when you're a visible minority. People don't often realize just how frustrating it can be. And I often don't like to talk about it, because people always assume, because people always clutch onto what they know best, people's insecurities follow them around, and I'm one to often say, like, I wasn't born into this world to babysit anybody's insecurities. That's the great part, and one of the greatest reasons why we would not be in a place to babysit anybody's insecurities, whether as poets or just human beings, is because, like, if you're thinking of places like Makokoba, there's no time to slow down and accommodate things that will re-traumatize you. Why? Why would you even do that? Those are communities that are consistently on alert. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I want to shift the conversation a little bit. First of all, I want to congratulate you for being selected to go into the World Slam Champions.
No, that's not how it happens. People
So,
keep
tell
getting
me
it wrong. There was the video section where the videos that are going to be shared during that festival.
Oh, okay.
So it was selected to be played around the festival. No, I don't have the ability to slam right now. I feel like I'm sharing my soul, and if slamming came, of course I would embrace it. But right now I'm embracing this as an arts educator. I think we had this conversation earlier about how the reason I do this now at 40 is so that if I'm a youth mentor, whoever I am talking to can say, I can believe I can believe him. You see what I mean? I can believe this guy, because he actually he's leaving that art that he's talking about. I don't want it to be something that can be second guessed. You see what I mean? Everything else is just me. My vocation is as an arts educator, because I think us as visible minorities in the colonization of our tongues, we have lost mentorship. We have lost transference of critical wisdom. Why? Because we are consistently being looked. I learned history about Hitler. I learned history about Mussolini. I'm like, oh, why didn't I learn history about Mzilikazi? Why didn't I learn history about Nehanda? Why didn't I learn history about Patrice Lumumba? You know, so there's all of this consistent, deliberate miseducation. So as an arts educator, my point, because these kids are a very beautiful sponge for information, is to teach from a place of saying, listen, kid, words are magic. And this is what you can do with words. You can find out things with words. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
With words, you can find out things. You can start off talking about the sky. And then the more you read and know what the context of sky is, then you start learning greater things, like who is the sky god of these certain people? What do people in Asian communities believe about the sky? What do African communities believe about the sky?
It sounds like it's almost like a prompt, you know,
Yeah.
a prompt that different communities can rally around,
Yeah.
and the dialogue and the conversation can take place.
Of course.
Yeah.
And that's the amazing thing about being able to, because I'm trying to get to the point where I can help people differentiate from when I say I'm a poet to when I say I'm a storyteller, because storytelling is critical right now, especially coming out of the COVID period that we came out of. People were silent for long, silenced by grief, silenced by separation, silenced by, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The distance that interrupted so many things. So people have bottled in stories. You see what I mean? Right now, we are living through a time where people have bottled in stories. And we have to find a way to kind of push people towards their story. Like, take a leap towards your story. That's what I want to be able to show the world through teaching young people and helping them find their stories in whichever capacity they can. But at the same time, I just want to be able to tell the history of my people too. Hence Zomkhonto.
So you're also modeling. So by the way you live, you're inviting other people to explore their lineage and their histories and tell their stories.
Yes, but what because I don't want to create some fantastical view of who I am as a person. I'm a failed, successful, downtrodden, uplifted. Like, I'm a variety of these complex ironies that we all are, and I just want to be able to teach that you can love something so much. Me, I love words. Sometimes I get caught up because I really want people to get what I mean when I say I love words. I'm not saying like I love English words or because we come from a very poetic people. Ndebele people are poetic. Shona people are poetic. You go to the Congo, in Lingala people are poetic. You go wherever you are. Like that continent has poetry just, like falling off its whole being, And I want people to understand that the storytelling abilities in Africa can heal. That you can actually have wellness storytelling happening, healing happening. We just came out of a COVID period. There's chances to let people know that their story matters.
Do you have an example of healing stories?
Okay, all right. My great-grandma, Mangos. My grandma, my great-grandma, Mangosi, from Lubani, Jabachava. This woman, there's this one time my cousins, when I visited, they were bragging how many, people went out shooting for birds, right? And I was new to it. But I shot a small bird, and that was bad. Now that I think of, but like when the other cousins came in with like bigger birds that they were ready to fry and eat, she took that small bird and took all care, removing everything, and she fried that one and ate it first, because she noticed that I had been crying because I didn't do anything except for that small bird. But she didn't even say a thing. She just took it and fried it first, and then after that kept praising me, like, "Oh, you came with a bird today." You know what I mean? And as small as that appeared in the grander scheme of things, what she was saying to me as a kid there was that nothing is small if somebody is out there to celebrate it. You see what I mean? Like, with that small gesture, she did a whole storytelling in front of me that healed me. You know what I mean? Because I was upset, thinking, and the cousins were making sure that I feel small. You see? But she took that and turned it around into small is big. You know what I mean?
Yes, she celebrated you.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes,
so
she saw you.
And that's the grand idea behind storytelling too. Storytelling begins with somebody having a story, because we all do. We just don't know how to tell it in ways that do not leave us vulnerable. That's the biggest thing about storytelling. Storytelling is so how do I put it? Storytelling is so delicate, because to get somebody to tell their story, they've got to trust the world in which that story is going to be told.
The audience.
You see what I mean? So, wellness storytelling is then about, like, I already understand that whatever story you're going to tell, the healing that's going to come out of it matters to me too, as much as it matters to. So I'm going to create a safe space for you to tell a story that will make you feel well. You see what I mean? So wellness storytelling is basically allowing people space to tell their stories so that they can confront their traumas in healthy ways.
Yes.
I will tell you that I don't even know what that looks like. You see? But I can tell you that there are like young people I believe in who like bring out the best in me, and I see them in certain levels of their life, and I'm like, oh, I remember when I was 21, you know what I mean? And then you're like, yeah, that's traumatic. How do we bring that young person who is still believing? Because the worst thing you could ever crush is the dreams of a child and the dreams of a young person coming into being. How do you not crush their dreams? That's what's beautiful about it.
And I think it is about seeing the dreams in each person. Because even if you are 80 years old, there's still a child in each one of us, and a dream. So,
of course.
And so taking care of each other that way, and listening to each other's stories.
I don't even like me like I'm pretty I'm a pretty simple dude, you know, because I know how faulty I am as a human being. I'm one of the faultiest human beings you ever find. You know what I mean? There's so many things you hear from different people about who people think I am, but who I believe I am is a whole new different experience, and that's what awakens the arts educator in me. Because who I believe I am is a story in itself. You see what I mean? That's where, like, when I say I'm a storyteller, what I wish to open and unlock is people telling their own stories too. It's a powerful thing. I have a friend of mine who's like a huge inspiration of mine. I went to university with Shantae. Like she has this whole practice of storytelling. I don't think I've actually like really given credit to her and speaking to her. I wish we could. That's a storyteller. She's African Canadian. That's somebody who is solid in telling stories in teaching storytelling on different many other capacities. And I value people that do that can teach people the value of what storytelling is, because storytelling begins with opening one's mouth, right? It begins with defying silence, and it's a very powerful tool rooted in empathy if you allow it to be.
Yes.
So I pride myself of being a storyteller. I pride myself of being an African storyteller. Why? Because for the most part, our stories are obliterated on purpose. You see what I mean? And having our stories obliterated on purpose is actually why I'm always saying like I'm unapologetically African. It doesn't mean like I'm trying to be some high flung. It's because out of the pain that I experienced, out of the erasure, which was like my poem, Surviving Erasure, out of the person that I myself tried to erase through my own, grief, through my own depression, through my own, then through other processes, I imaged the storyteller that I am right now. because for a long time my tongue was, you see what I mean? I felt I had nothing to say. And the greater part of storytelling or teaching wellness storytelling is to help people untie their tongues.
The image of releasing and setting it free.
Yes.
Yeah.
Help somebody untie their tongue.
So we have you have a global audience here. What is the first step that they must take?
First step is to breathe. Breathe and have mentors. Up until today, I think what's lost in this, like where we all have to advertise ourselves for something, is that we have come to a place of competitiveness that does not allow you to even say people that inspire you. You see what I mean? Because it should consistently be a thing that you wake up and see somebody that inspires you. Because how else can you inspire somebody else if there's no people? You see, we have this concept, umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu. I am who I am because of others. You see what I mean? No one can possibly survive in an individualistic kind of with an individualistic mentality to life, unless they are a true staunch capitalist. Because capitalism loves individualism, but love loves extended family.
And then once again, it echoes back to the lineage. You're passing the gift of and tradition on and on. So you're passing the blessing of the gift of the arts that you have been blessed with. And
I got many, like I out of the top of my head, Munetsi, and there's this guy called Munetsi, the greatest storytellers from Zimbabwe, from a town called Chitungiza. Ngoni, Tapiwa, the whole Dielectric Blue, my own dude that I used to do rhyming with, Specific from Zion Oasis. Great storytellers. Why I'm naming these, because people always expect you to start saying, you name literature people. I'm not a literature person per se. I think I'm a poet because of lineage. We have a whole lot of poetry in our spaces. At funerals, we have poetry. At weddings, we have it flows. Even our language is poetic. People don't just say I love you. They're like, this is how much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People don't just say ngiyakuthanda, ngikuthanda njengendawo le, so many things. I love that this interview is just free flow for now. I wish we had time to actually, because I have a lot to say towards that. Because our languages are beautiful, by the way. Storytelling has always been our thing. Uncontested.
I love how you are celebrating an art form, the art form of storytelling in poetic form in Zimbabwe. And it just, it's amazing to meet artists from around the world to share different perspectives on, and you're putting it in English, you're telling stories in English so that we in the English-speaking communities can enjoy some of the stories. But it's also wonderful when we get to hear you speak poems in your language, because we hear the musicality of your traditions.
But you see, it's the one thing I would love is for all of these other poets that actually speak like mostly in my language and other languages to come out of the woodwork and actually like have people translate and you hear what they're saying, because there's Taluso, the poet from that young man is on another level of his own. You see what I mean? Like all of prosperity, prosperity, the pride of Africa, based in South Africa, currently doing law. All of these, I wish you could actually get to hear the depth of how these poets are, and we have so many of them, and I think that we are starting to get very defined because of the new technologies. Because now our stuff can be translated. If it's in a, it can be translated like this, and I think that's where the whole elitist mentality and colonial mentality is getting thrown out the door by these young people. These young people don't.
They're making poetry for
they're crazy.
The people on the ground.
These young people, I got huge belief in them. I just really got, like, for instance, I really got blessed by this amazing friend of mine called Plotmark. He's part of Earground. He took like this whole idea of, let's look at all of the provinces, right, in the country, and bring out all of these artists, these new artists who are not like necessarily going to be heard that quickly, because people are always thinking about main people. And he brought that together into Amplifier Festival. It just finished. These young people are amazing.
It's exciting.
It's an exciting time.
Yes.
Because for me, like, it's the most exciting time. Like, which is why I always emphasize being an arts educator. This is why I always emphasize being a youth mentor. You see? Because what I do is Zomkhonto. That's not for me. What I do is Zomkhonto is for a young person to be like, he's confident. I love that. So when they listen to me, they can actually be convicted to listen to me, because they know I got something to say. So I go so far with my poetry. I go so far with my storytelling, so that a young person can have something to believe in. Not where I'm just coming there and I have these credentials and you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Credentials is spirit. Yes. Credentials is spirit. I don't care whether you have a PhD, let that PhD be from your soul. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't care if you let everything that is within you be from your soul. Let it not be second guesswork, because we're not in the spirit of guesswork. We are in a time where we are like transforming and being transformed. I watch young people a lot and listen to what they have to say. Why? Because they have more to say than I've experienced, because they are experiencing a new time. The problem we usually have is that we think that young people don't know because of what we have been through, because of our own insecurities. No. Those young people, they are the teachers. They are the preachers. They are the destiny seekers. You see what I mean?
Yeah. And that was exactly, if you had 2 sentences to say to the world, what would you say to the young people?
2 sentences. I am happy to consistently learn from you.
Yes.
That's the first one. Second one, keep teaching me.
Beautiful. Do you have a question for the mermaid?
Okay. So out of your experience of the Singapore festival, and then the New York poetry festival you're going to right now, out of those two experiences, how do you approach like coming from a different literary perspective and then entering Is it new to you or?
It's just exciting because it's almost like a Venn diagram. There's similarities and there are differences, and both need to be celebrated.
Okay.
You know, the poetry, the arts make us all human beings, right? It makes us connected to one another because we connect with beauty and spirituality. Our stories, our innate need to share our lives and be seen and be seen. That's the commonality. But the beautiful part is also the different flavors, the different ethos, the histories that they bring that color their stories and their poetry. And that, for me, listening to the authenticity and the styles that come in the regions, that is so exciting for me. And you know what? I am just really proud to say that whichever community that I've been so far, I feel like I've
you
had
were
a
in
chance.
Metropolis.
Yes, exactly.
You already know the texture.
Yes.
Of Njelele people, the rainmakers.
My only regret is that not spending more time in Zimbabwe, and it's so strange. I don't see it just as Zimbabwe. I see it as with my time with the Shona people, my time with the Ndebele people, and the Tonga. So I got to be a Zulu chief in Gokwe, and then when I went in South Africa, it was another group of people that I met. So I feel like I've been introduced, I've been teased. I just want more, which is what is so exciting.
Zimbabwe is infectious. The whole of Southern Africa is infectious. The whole of Africa is infectious. Yes. The whole of South America is infectious. You got to look at people as having something to say.
Yes.
You got to look at people as having something to contribute, because I think the problem is right now we are locked in a time where to be proud of yourself is arrogance to some people. You know why? Because of the different narratives of what pride does. The reason why I'm like completely proud of myself is because I know the battles I've fought. And two, I know that for the most part, I am erased. You know what I mean? By virtue of being a visible minority, a certain part of me is erased. And the funny thing is, when people say visible minority, it's already like, oh, we'll consider you now after we are done with the people who are visible to the world. You know what I mean? So that minority bullshit, I don't feed into that. I am who I am.
Be who you are. Be authentically who you are. Don't apologize. Be who you are. And one of the things I'm really excited about to say is that in celebrating myself and learning to celebrate myself, I've seen it give other people permission to celebrate themselves.
You get it.
And on that note, I hope that we have teased you enough to get to know this poet storyteller from Zimbabwe.
Inguni le Makokoba, Zomkhonto, Zomchoko, Zomkwaza, Inhloko yesikolo sokwaza.
Ngiyabonga, my brother. I appreciate it.
Yes.
This is Kemblanton Bappy with Q's Blue World. Just signing off, and
Zomkhonto,
check out this poem.
Zilangata,
Windsor, Canada, Zimbabwe poet.
Yeah.
Yes. Take care, everyone. Take care.
Awesome. You're awesome. So let me hang in there.